Hi, I'm Joe Gerdes, and this is Coffee in the Capitol. Our guest today is Steve Brame, the new president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Rural Electric Association and the Allegheny Electric Cooperative. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Steve, I say new president and CEO, but you've really been with PREA for over 20 years. Can you give us a little bit of history of the Pennsylvania Rural Electric Association and why it's so important?
You know, the history of rural electrification in Pennsylvania is over 80 years. Cooperatives started to be formed in our rural communities. Really was a program that was generated here in Pennsylvania, but fully implemented by the federal government in the 1930s. Rural electrification in Pennsylvania was on the vanguard of that. As you can imagine, representing the townships, our folks in Pennsylvania are activists. They're engaged in their communities, and at its very core, that's what an electric cooperative is. Joe, we provide advocacy, communication support, education and training, job training and safety. We work to try to provide our electric cooperatives with the resources that they can use to help achieve their goals in their rural communities. In fact, there's a fair number of overlap between the leaders of the electric cooperative program and township supervisors in their communities. And so we're very, very proud of that and proud of our advocacy for our communities in our rural areas.
There really are a lot of crossovers between what both of our associations do. Steve, one thing I didn't mention is that you also serve on the board of directors of the Center for Rural Pennsylvania. We've had Senator Yaw on this program before. You're also a member of the Rural Development Council. And as you mentioned earlier, that a lot of those crossovers with 95% of the Pennsylvania's landmass are covered by townships of the second class. Can you elaborate a little more on some of those partnerships?
Yeah. Well, one of the foundations, it's a foundational tenet of rural electrification is that, as I said earlier, we are actually in the communities of which we serve. So very actively, all of our member cooperatives are engaged with organizations in their local communities, whether that's government organizations like the townships that they serve, or charitable organizations throughout their service areas. Certainly, first responders. We partner with our first responders on a daily basis in terms of training. In addition to that, we also have what we're very proud of, our RECA fund, our Rural Electric Community Assistance Program. And through the course of the last 2 decades, we've put $1.6 million of low interest loans back into our rural communities. And a large portion of that has gone to our first responder community.
That's outstanding.
We feel very strongly that safer communities happen when you have well-trained, well-organized first responders, and we want to play a role in doing that. After all, a good bit of what we do is actually first response. I would throw in another thing here too, and though you didn't ask about it, I know it's on the minds of a lot of your townships, is that of broadband. And I will tell you, as sure as I'm standing here right now, our cooperatives are eager to partner with entities that would be willing to serve our communities, our consumer members with broadband. We do have several cooperatives that are offering broadband to the home, that have created subsidiaries to offer.
Sure. I'm glad you brought that up, Steve, because really, PREA, as you mentioned, 80 years ago, it was decided that electricity is important to get to folks that couldn't achieve it. You've kind of have the roadmap on how to deploy and how to get this essential broadband service out to customers, and that partnership is so important.
We've been active in trying to get this telecommunications infrastructure out into our communities for 30 years. Yeah. And that's really, really exciting now to see opportunities there for us to do that. You know, our communities are where the rubber meets the road, right? That's where it all starts to happen. So we're trying to make sure that we can get out there and help with that.
Steve, one of the roles the PREA does is advocacy, both on the Hill in Harrisburg and also in Washington, D.C. And, who knows what's going to happen in Washington, but here in Harrisburg, any way we slice it, we're going to have a lot of new members in the House and the Senate come January 2023. How's your organization going to respond to them? I assume education and getting out to meet those new members is going to be vitally important.
Yeah, and education, in our view, education starts with our local leaders in electric cooperatives around the Commonwealth being the first in front of those new legislators. In fact, our co-ops often have a fairly robust new member orientation or new legislative orientation type program on their site, usually in December after an election. And that allows us to really hit the ground running when new General Assembly members come here to Harrisburg, so that our legislative staff can remind them of our priorities and remind them of how important electric cooperatives are in their communities and their rural areas. And
Sure.
so we have to be very engaged with those public servants who are involved in the administration. And no matter how you cut it, there's going to be a new administration here in Harrisburg in January of 2023.
Steve, thank you so much for taking time to join us today, and look forward to working with you and your members at PREA as you ascend into this role as president and CEO. New role for you, and well deserved. Congratulations, Steve.
Thanks so much, Joe. And I promise you, we look forward to working with the townships as we have in the past, and all those shared experiences that we've had together, as well as with brother Dave Sanko as well. We'll keep moving forward.
Outstanding. Steve, thanks so much.
Thanks, Joe.
And remember, if you like what you're seeing, email tvn@psats.org. Subscribe to PSAT's YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications, and follow our social media pages. We'll see you back next week for the next episode of TVN.